Hello，你好，欢迎回来，Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny
Kitten.
and Tiger and Aslan. Yeah, it's like a full house around here. I'm going to apologize for once again doing this the black screen for you guys. But it is late. There's nothing to see outside, and this way will sort of get you into the mood before you have to go night night. Um, Today we are going to talk about a topic that is a little bit, maybe a little bit NSFW, not safe for work, maybe a little bit not for people under 18. So if you're at work, or if you're under 18, or if you're just a little bit sensitive about topics regarding sexuality and prostitution, then maybe this is not a episode for you. But I imagine if you clicked on it, even after seeing the name of the episode, that means you're probably okay to stay. We're going to kick Kitten out of the room because
No.
it's not meant for her ears either. We are going to talk about Chinese hookers. Now, when it comes to prostitution, China and in a lesser degree Taiwan have always been a little bit strange. Why do I say that? Well, take Taiwan for example. Prostitution is technically perfectly legal because the federal government, the central government, made it legal. But every city government still outlaw prostitution. So basically, if you are in Taiwan and you want to find a companion for the night, you either have to go underground or you have to go out of the city. Outside city limit, then it's perfectly legal. If you want it in the city, you can still find them, but you have to find them in sort of a lot of these disguised locations like bathhouses, massage parlors. Don't even get me started with the massage parlors. Like, thanks to a lot of those Oriental Asian massage parlors uh, that are just brothels in disguise, I can't even like go out and look for a proper massage place. I mean, of course, now because Kitten is a very professional massage therapist, I no longer need to look elsewhere. But prior to meeting Kitten, me being a martial art guy and fitness guy, a lot of time I get stiff and sore, and I always find so awkward. Like, you walk into one of these places, you don't know if you're getting an actual massage, or are they going to suddenly trying to sell you for like a hand job or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
It's just like really awkward. Actually, Kitten and I had a funny experience. Uh, this was prior to COVID, I believe, and Kitten wanted to get a massage. So we found this nice massage place that, well, the reviews were very nice. And then we called a taxi to drop us off there. Little did us, little did we know that right across the street from that massage parlor was another massage parlor, and this was a whorehouse. And the taxi driver dropped us off at the wrong massage place. So we knocked on the door, and this very unfriendly sounding woman came out. What you want? What you want?
Yeah, she was kind of whispering at first until she got closer to us.
Yeah. And then we said, we here for massage. And she said, not here. And Kitten said, we made an appointment with you. And she, what did she say?
Not with me, you didn't.
And then she slammed the door in our faces. And we were standing there like, what the hell? What's going on here? So we called the number that we called earlier and say, hey, we're here. We made the appointment with you, but uh, one of your ladies just slammed the door in our face. And the lady on the phone was so embarrassed. She's like, "Oh, you guys are at the wrong one. You guys are across the street. That was the whorehouse." And I just like, okay, now it makes sense why she was so rude. Probably disturbed her conducting business. So yeah, uh, whorehouses. Very awkward situation with massage parlors. So in Taiwan, it's awkward. In China, it's even more awkward because in China, technically, anything prostitution is illegal. Anything pornography is illegal. Like they have such a strict policy and stuff like that. Like you get caught, you go to jail. It's that bad. Okay? I once known, or I heard of a case of a guy who operated a website publishing erotic audio in China, and he got sentenced for 25 years in jail. Yeah, take a minute to process that. You operate a website, basically like what we take for granted here in North America, like Songgasm.net or Literotica, and there's a lot of those erotic audio sites. Don't ask me how I know. I don't frequent them. I'm not going to admit it.
Of course
I'm,
not.
it's just kitten like that kind of stuff.
Oh, heck no.
But here, you get so many of them. You just type it into Google, and they pop out. But this guy tried to do the same in China, got sentenced for 25 bloody years in jail. That's how serious it. But despite it being that serious, you can't go anywhere in China without tripping over prostitution. Like seriously, it's crazy. Like even when you go to the park, okay, if you're a single guy, you go to the park, you're going to have some uh really cheap, uh usually older, like past their prime prostitute trying to see if you want some companionship for 20 bucks, something like that. And you walk down the street. If you know where to look, prostitution everywhere. Let me give you guys an example. One of the most popular uh, way for prostitutes to operate in China is disguise themselves as hair salons and barber shops. So if you go to China and you see a barber shop or a hairdresser place with a beautiful woman sitting uh, near the front door, then it's probably not a real barbershop. Okay, don't waste your time unless you are looking for companionship because you go in there, they don't know how to cut hair, they don't know how to wash your hair. They're going to assume that you go in there, you know what you're looking for, and they're going to start trying to negotiate prices with you. Now, some people may say, well, what if foreigners come? And what if a lady, let's say you have a lady from uh, Guam, USA, who might not know this and really think that it's a hairdresser? What do they do? Simple. They just tell you, we're not open today. Sorry, go elsewhere. Yeah. So these things, these fake hair salons everywhere in China. Even worse still is when you go to China, a lot of time when you stay in hotels, if you register and they see you are like single guys or just men registering, no sooner than you get into your room than your room phone start to ring, and you get all these phone calls from the front desk asking if you want special services, if you want massage girl, if you want companionship, all that stuff. It's crazy. Okay, I have a little story regarding that. But I'll tell you guys that at the end of the video. So nowadays, After all that, it seemed like prostitution is something illegal, shady, really like people hide and stuff like that uh, in Chinese culture. But that has not always been the case. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about uh, prostitute in ancient China. But not only that, I'm going to talk to you guys specifically about how high class this particular class of prostitutes, actually calling them prostitute is cheapening them because they are more what you would call courtesans in ancient days. Are they still prostitute? Yeah, I mean technically speaking, if you want to argue the case, they still count as prostitute because they are uh, doing things for money. But by the end of this video, you guys are going to get a totally new, if not appreciation, you're going to get a totally new understanding of how crazy high class these ancient Chinese prostitutes were once upon a time. Now, don't get me wrong, there were regular prostitutes too, and they were everywhere, and they were legal. Back in throughout most of Chinese history, prostitution was perfectly legal. Uh, Men going to prostitute, the whorehouses and the brothels was perfectly uh, okay. In most cases, very proper, kind of expected, especially if you were someone of higher station, if you were someone who's like a businessman. You have to do a lot of your business dealings where there's drinking and there's women and there's dancing and there's music. So whorehouses was a popular place for business people to conduct their businesses. Whorehouses were also a very popular place for uh, people to just go unwind with friend. So back then, going to the whorehouse didn't have the same stigma as it does today. Back then, in old Chinese days, we're talking about only about 100 years ago, and then for the thousands of years before that, going to the whorehouse back then is about the equivalent of me saying to Kitten, "Hey, we got nothing to do after dinner. You feel like going for karaoke?" Yeah, it's sort of like that, back then. Now, obviously, uh, just by me saying that, you can surmise, you can guess that people didn't just go to whorehouses to get laid. Yeah, no, people, a lot of like a lot of time, people went to whorehouses. Yes, they did go there for that purpose, but a lot of time, people didn't go there for that. A lot of time, they went there just for the live music. A lot of times they just went there for the dancing. A lot of times they went there just because, well, one of your good friends might be there and they want to go talk, see their good friend. Uh, Sometimes they just go there because they hear about, hey, there's a really cute new girl in town working at this location and they just want to see her. But I'm going to reserve these quote unquote common prostitutes for a later date because today I want to tell you guys about the greenhouse ladies. No, I'm not talking about like ladies who are environmentalists, right? Greenhouse is not what you're thinking about. It's not like greenhouse that you grow plants in. Throughout Chinese tradition, greenhouse in Mandarin, 青楼, Chinglo, 青楼, symbolizes a very high fashion. So for many thousands of years, Chinese people, especially the really, really rich ones, they would have red gates on their properties. Red gates. Because red symbolizes luck. And then the private quarters, their private studies and uh, apartments would be painted green because green symbolizes nature and longevity and purity and all that stuff. So greenhouse in the old days symbolizes uh, like the most highest esteemed of buildings. That those places were painted green. Those apartments or buildings were painted green. Greenhouse ladies, obviously, going by that name, were uh, ladies that conduct their businesses lived in green painted buildings, so in these high class, very fancy buildings. Now, what were the greenhouse ladies? Let me put it this way: almost every high end brothel, every high end whorehouse would at least need one greenhouse lady. If they could have two, they were doing really, really good. If they could have three, that was almost unheard of. Because these greenhouse ladies were not your common prostitute. Your common prostitute have to listen to the mistress of the house, the madam of the house. Okay, they get beaten if they don't obey. They get abused if they don't obey. Uh, the greenhouse lady, you can think of them as the alpha female of all prostitutes. They were the elite. They were the elite courtesans. They were the best of the best. They were the alpha and the omega. They were, in a simpler term, uh, they were the trump card of that particular whorehouse. Many of them were so successful that they didn't even need to be with a whorehouse. Most of them could strike out and do business on their own and live on a yacht or lived in a castle. Like, these are how successful some of these ladies were. Even when they were in the whorehouse, the greenhouse lady of the house was head and shoulder above the madam of the house, above the mistress of the house. The mistress of the house would beat other lady, other prostitute, but never would dare to even raise her voice to the greenhouse lady, because the greenhouse lady is the golden goose that lays the golden egg. One day with this greenhouse lady would probably bring in more gold and silver than the rest of the girls combined for 2 years. Right? So the uh, madam of the house have to be very civilized, very civil with this green lady of the house. So what's the big deal? Some people are like, wow, you make them sound like they are in charge, like they are so wonderful. What makes them different when they still prostitute? Well, first let me tell you about how this green lady of the house came to be. Most other prostitutes became prostitutes uh, simply by being willing to do it. I mean, if we want to be crude about it, how hard is it, right? You just lay down, have sex with men, and they pay you. Yeah, I know there's a lot more, but like at the most basic level, prostitution was not that complicated unless you were a, a greenhouse lady. You see, the greenhouse lady, technically speaking, didn't uh, sleep with people, uh, no matter how much they get paid. Most other prostitutes, like I said, all you take is a bit of seduction, willingness, or good acting in bed, and they could become prostitutes. The greenhouse ladies were totally different. They were trained. These were women, and now we're going to reach the darker part of this episode, the more shady, the more despicable part of the what's going on. The greenhouse ladies were young girls that were either sold to slavers by their parents or stolen from their parents by slavers at a very young age. usually from the age of 6 to 7. Usually by 6 or 7, you can tell if a girl is going to grow up and turn be really, really beautiful. So these young girls were either sold or stolen by the slaver, but they were not abused or mistreated or sexually assaulted like your normal slaves. These girls were taken in by the slavers, put in rigorous training. Uh, and I'm not talking about obedience training like they stand over you with a whip or stuff like that. No, these young girls were put through what you would call like a super overachiever type of training. They had to learn how to dance. They learn how to write poetry. They learn how to play any kind of instrument like the guqin or pipa or erhu or flute. They have to play all the instruments. They have to learn how to uh, present themselves in social settings. They have to learn how to walk, how to move, how to act, how to talk politics. They have to learn how to be high class. From the tender young age of 7, sometimes 8, these women were trained, and schooled in culture, in politics, in art, in drawing, in poetry, in music, in swordsmanship, in sportsmanship, basically overloaded with any kind of knowledge, not to mention any kind of routine that they have to go through to keep them slender and fit and trimmed and good looking. Uh, they have to learn how to do their hair and how to use all kind of products to help them look even better. What kind of perfume, what kind of cologne, what kind of powder to apply, and how to talk to a certain kind of man. If you meet the emperor, how do you talk to the emperor? If you meet the queen, how do you talk to the queen, etc., etc. So they go through this training until they are 14 years old. When they turn 14, these girls are then either sold to high-powered, high-ranking noble families to be uh, married, and because back then men could take in mistresses and concubines. So some of these women would, young girl really, get sold to become concubines in royal families, in noble families, and have they those were the more lucky ones. They get to live the rest of their life in nobility. The rest get sold to various whorehouses and become greenhouse lady. So you see, it's not just sex. Actually, sex wasn't even part of it. Like the greenhouse lady literally had to get trained for like 6 or 7 years for that to happen, for them to become greenhouse lady. So they were like the elite of the elite, the most beautiful, the prettiest, and these were women that could write, could read poetry, could uh, compose music, could write, can play music. They could ride horses. They can shoot arrows. They could do a lot of things. These were women that were trained to the utmost perfection. Now let's talk about what does it entails for you to even get to spend time with a greenhouse lady. It's not like other prostitutes where you just go to the whorehouse and you say, "Hey, I want to see Pink. Is Pink available?" "Oh yeah, Pink is available. Room 5. Go over to room 5." I sound like I've been to those places before, but I haven't.
Mhm.
I'm sticking to my story.
Mhm.
You never mind. Be quiet. When you want to see a greenhouse lady, it doesn't work that way. Okay, you can't just walk in and say you want to see the greenhouse lady of the joint. Uh, no matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter. There is a due process that have to happen for someone to even get to see a greenhouse lady. First, you can't go on your own. To you have to register as a group. So it starts as a group activity. You can't just show up on your own. You have to almost like let's say you guys want to register for a group tour to go to Niagara Falls. So you have to put together a group, okay, to get into to the first step to register to see a greenhouse lady. You have to put together a group, or you have to join another group that happen to be going for that day. Right? Put your name in there. Number two, you have to show up with a group, and there's a big blackboard or cinder block wall uh, that they ask you to write a totally original, either prose or poetry or uh, lyrics um, on it. Sometimes, if you are really influential, if you look like you're really rich, they'll bring you pen like parchment and quills, and you can write it that way. But most of the time, people will say, "Here's the wall. Okay, here, this is your spot. Go for it." And after you write it, a worker in the whorehouse will copy down what you've written, take that to the greenhouse lady. So the greenhouse lady is sitting there in her room, and the worker show up with like 30 uh, poems or 30 songs from the entire group. And this lady will sit there and read them, and then she'll say, um, I will consider number 1, 7, 12, and 14. The rest go home. And that's it. Only the number that she considered, that she said is good enough to advance, get you stay. The rest, sorry, go home. If you want to try again, you got to pay the registration fee tomorrow and try again.
She
To,
just sent home 13 people.
huh?
She just sent home 13 people.
Uh-huh. So to see a greenhouse lady, it's like a game show. Okay? You don't just go in. You got to you got to meet a lot of qualifications. Okay, so that the poetry, the writing wasn't even the end of it. So let's say she picked four people out of the group, and the four of you get to stay. Then the four of you are led to a very well furnished room. There's a pot of tea on the table, and you are invited to sit around the table, have tea. You're going to spend the next 2 hours sitting there, have tea, and talk to each other. The greenhouse lady is hiding in the next room where she can hear the conversation, and she will take this chance to hear who is really loud and obnoxious, like some certain friend we know, who is too quiet and have nothing to say, who has really, really good point. Oh, that guy, that Johnny Tiger guy talk really well. Yeah. So after 2 hours, the greenhouse lady will tell the house guard or the bouncer or the staff there. Okay, I want the chubby looking Chinaman. The guy's like calling himself Johnny Tiger. So the staff will come in and say to the other three, "Sorry, dude, you guys have to go. Mr. Johnny Tiger, you got to stay. The lady of the house will see you." Now, you guys may think this is the end of it, but no. Okay, here's the kicker. Because through this whole process, that you got to pay for the tea, you got to pay for the ink when you're writing, you got to tip the bodyguard, you got to tip the people that bring you the tea. There's a lot of money exchange in hand. Okay, so by this point, you might have already spent $1,000.
Oh.
And here is the worst part. If by the time you like this whole process is done, and let's say it's 7 o'clock in the evening, greenhouse lady says, Tell them I'm really sorry, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. Tell them to come back and start over tomorrow. Then sorry guys, you guys are going home. There's no, you just wasted your money for the entire day. Okay, you got to come back tomorrow with another group or join a different group and start the whole process from the beginning. And hopefully, it doesn't happen again. So sometimes it can take 3 or 4 days. Actually, it's not uncommon for some people to try this for 2 or 3 months before they finally get selected by the greenhouse lady for stage number 3. Yeah, that's not even the end of it. There's a third stage. After you see the greenhouse lady, after you get to, you're led into a room where she is waiting for you. Yeah, some of you are thinking this is where I rip off her clothes and do my thing. No, don't forget, there's a lot of bodyguards and bouncers there. You don't do that.
Mhm.
Okay, you get into that room, you sit down like a good boy, and you talk to her nicely. And this is where she's going to take an instrument off the wall, either a flute or erhu or pipa or guqin. She's going to start playing. She's going to say, I am really appreciative that you went to all the trouble of coming to see me. I know it's been hard, so let me play you a song. She's going to start playing, and you don't just sit there and enjoy the song. This is a test, just like the previous 2 stages, the poetry and the conversation. This is another test. When she's playing, you need to be able to name the song. You need to be able to comment on the song. So let's say she play something like uh, uh, da 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 da. Oh, that's a great song by Johnny Tiger. And I really like this song. This song talk about ambition, and you can do anything. You don't have to let anyone tell you you can't do things.
I love that song.
And yeah, so the greenhouse lady said, okay. How about this one? Uh, Da, 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 da. Oh yeah, that's another Johnny Tiger song. This one it's beautiful. This is about unrequited love between lovers and almost a long distance relationship. And Johnny Tiger actually wrote this song to dedicate it to someone very special. And then the greenhouse lady said, "Yeah, you're so right. Oh wow, this is a guy who really know his music. At least he really know Johnny Tiger music." So you pass. Congratulations, you just passed stage 3. But if you just sit there and go, nice song, but I don't know who wrote this. Sorry, dude, you're going home. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, you just failed. You're going home. So, okay, it takes 3 tests. Okay, the test of uh, poetry, the test of literature, and the test of conversation, and the test of music appreciation. Finally, after all that, you pass 3 tests, and now they'll clear the room, they'll lead you to her inner chamber, where no, you still don't get to rip off her clothes. This is when you actually get to sit down and have tea together or eat together, and or maybe you can request her to dance for you, or play more song for you, and she's going to talk to you about basically anything you want. Okay, like the this is the main point. Most of the people that could afford this, like I said, just to pass the first 2 tests, sometimes you spend thousands of dollars. Most of the people that can pass these tests and spend this money, they honestly they didn't need to come here for sex. These were people that so rich and so well educated, so influential. These were people that already had like maybe 10 or 20 concubines and mistresses at home. They didn't need to come go through all this for sex. So what did people come go through all this for? For actual conversation, for actual companionship. So some people say, well, that doesn't make sense. Why? Why? Like, what's so special about these ladies that people pay all this money, thousands and thousands of gold, get tortured like this, go get led through the wild goose chase, and, and then finally get to see them just for the uh, honor of being able to talk to them? Like, come on. You got to remember, in Chinese history, most women were not educated. Most women did not go out of the house. They didn't travel the world. They didn't know a lot of things. So while these men, they are at home, they have a lot of mistresses and concubines, they couldn't talk to them. Okay? They couldn't talk to them about politics. They couldn't talk to them about the world outside. They couldn't talk to them about poetry or music because these women, they didn't know anything. They grew up, they just were prepared to get married and have children. That's it. That's what a lot of women back then, that's all they were interested in. They were interested in knitting, in crocheting. They were interested in picking flowers, chasing butterflies. You want them to talk about poetry? They had no idea. So a lot of these men, especially these high ranking, really powerful men, they were starving for intellectual companionship. They can talk to other men, but the idea of being able to talk to a beautiful, drop dead gorgeous woman about any topic and she can match you stride for stride, this was worth it for these men. I would tell you that this go back to our Soul Search Sunday where talk about conversation. Is one of the four elements that are essential in keeping a relationship alive. This is very relevant to this because when you have a person that you can talk about anything with anytime on any topic and they are on your level, that's hot. That's sexy. Okay, that's like really, really stimulating on a emotional and mental level. Uh, that's why Kitten and I get along so well. And I will tell you that back then, in 2000, 2008, 2009, when I went to China, I met a woman there. I won't go into all the details, but I fell in love with her. I mean, nothing ever came of it because of the circumstances, but I felt madly in love with her, and
Mm.
she loved me too. Um, because that woman could match me blow by blow in conversation. Like we were sitting on the bus or on the train or on the plane, and we're talking about uh, evolution. We're talking about the universe. We're talking about astrology. We're talking about science. We're talking about history. We were talking about mythology. Like it was crazy. Like I very rarely ran into someone who could match me in conversation in that way. So I can, from a first-hand experience, totally relate to why these men who had so much money and power would go out of their way to pay and to jump through the hoop to get to just sit and talk with this greenhouse lady. Now, some people are thinking, so they just talk and dance and sing, uh, nothing, nothing sexual. Well, sometimes, okay, sometimes sex will happen, but it's not because you pay. It happens only if that lady, the greenhouse lady, is in love with you too. There has been many examples of uh, the person who finally gets through to see the lady end up getting kicked out because the lady just didn't like them. They were told to go home. And there has been many stories, very romantic stories of someone finally, after all that, gets to see the lady and they fall madly in love with each other and they spend the rest of their life together, get married and have children. That stuff. So the greenhouse lady would have intimate relationship with you if she really liked you, but she didn't do it for prostitution. Uh, when you pay money and when you go see her, you were paying for her companionship. You're paying for her conversation. You're paying for her skills. All those years of training as a musician, as a poet, as an artist, you were paying for those. You didn't pay money for her body. Unless she wanted to, you wouldn't even be able to touch her hand. Like I said, a lot of these greenhouse ladies were even taught martial arts and war skills. And some of these ladies, uh, one in particular, was very famous during the Song Dynasty, who married a general, the very famous general came and saw her, and they married each other, and she stopped being a greenhouse lady and just spent the remaining of her life being a dedicated wife of the general. And during one of the campaign, when the general's the drummer, back then during battle, there's always a drummer that uh, do different drum beats because like honestly, when you have thousands of people on the battlefield, no one can hear the general. No one can hear what the general says. So if you just yell retreat, no one's going to hear you, right? So you have to signal the drummer, and you have to okay. If I do down 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 down, that's retreat. Okay, when you when you see the signal for retreat, beat that, do that beat. So during this campaign, this general's drummer got killed. One of the arrows from the enemy killed the drummer, and this the wife of the general, who used to be a greenhouse lady, put on armor and went up there and grabbed the uh, drumstick and started beating that drum like she was actually trained for it, and she actually was. Like she's trained as a good musician and she's trained as a warrior, so she knew all the signals. So that's how hardcore some of these women were back in those days. So after that, I hope that you guys definitely uh, gained a little bit of a new appreciation of not all prostitutes were made equal in ancient China. There were a particular class of prostitute that was head and shoulders above all the rest, and not everyone who wanted to see them could see them, and only very, very lucky few were ever able to even touch their hand or get in bed with them. These were, uh, to say that they were ladies, uh, were kind of understating it. You can say they were the queen of the prostitution business. These were the alpha females. Now, earlier I said I have a little story about the prostitution in China. When I went to China back in 2008, 2009, me and my friend we checked into a hotel, and this was in western China, sort of where the Xinjiang province is. And what if you've never been there? If you go there, uh, you need to get everything done before 8 in the evening. After 8 p.m., you can't even find restaurants that's open. Everything closes super early there. So we didn't know that. So we checked into the hotel, and then it was already like 7:30 in the evening. We put down our luggage and went to look for some dinner, and we couldn't find any food. By 10 o'clock, we were back in our hotel room, hungry and angry and miserable. And then the phone rang. It was the front desk, and hey, would you guys like some special companionship? And I, before I could say anything, my friend grabbed the phone and said, yes. So the they sent a lady up to our room, and she opened the door, and she was really shocked because there were two guys and two women in the room. There's four of us in the room, and she was getting really awkward. She's like, I don't know, like which one of you said you wanted companionship? And then my friend said, well, actually, we're wondering if you can get us some food. We figure that you ladies of the night, you get hungry, so you must know where to get food. And she's like, oh, is that what you want? He's like, yeah, yeah, but we'll still pay your price. How much do you charge for your regular business? And she told us it was not much, like $100. And we say, okay, here's $100. Here's $20 tip. Go get us some food, and then we'll pay you for the food. And she came back with a bunch of instant noodles and canned stuff, and yeah, we finally got to eat, and she was happy. She made money. Didn't even have to take off her clothes. So that was a interesting experience. So I know this was a little bit unconventional and maybe a little bit long-winded, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Uh,
Very much.
and yeah, I'm sure she's kinky like that. Yeah. Anyway, I'll be back again tomorrow for the Toys Thursday. For now, have a good night.
Good night.